We all hear them at the beginning of a council meeting, sometimes at an event that we attend. It's the land acknowledgments. Well, in the city of Toronto, the land acknowledgments have taken a wacky turn. Here is a Toronto City Councillor at the beginning of a budget session. Have a listen.
By acknowledging first that the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. I'm also going to make our African ancestral acknowledgement, and that is that the City of Toronto acknowledges all treaty peoples, including those who came here as settlers, as migrants, either in this generation or in generations past. And those of us who came here involuntarily, particularly those brought to these lands as a result of the transatlantic slave trade and slavery. We pay tribute to those ancestors of African origin and descent.
So as you can see and hear, it goes on and on and on. All the grievances, all the guilt. But here is a Toronto citizen, Daniel Tate. He's with Integrity TO. He had his own land acknowledgement, which has gone viral.
Okay, I'd like to start my deputation in a good way by acknowledging the people who fund this municipal enterprise, the Toronto taxpayer. Let's reflect and remember that every word spoken in this chamber, every light bulb, and every salary paid, including those of city councillors, is funded almost entirely by the hard work and earnings of taxpayers and property owners. Nearly all of the city's $18.9 billion budget comes directly from them. We acknowledge that while taxpayers and property owners have endured an almost 20% increase in the last 3 years, only a small and insulated group decides how much of their income is expropriated to sustain a burgeoning municipal bureaucracy that continues to grow regardless of outcomes and results. We pay respect to those taxpayers because without them, this institution could not indulge in ideological excesses like renaming streets and public squares, painting roads with inferior and environmentally damaging red paint, nor fund harm reduction programs that result in a steady stream of drug paraphernalia littering our streets, sidewalks, parks, and playgrounds. In this spirit of acknowledgement and with an eye to the future, we recognize the Toronto taxpayer and revere their tolerance for being taxed.
Hello, everyone. I'm Adrienne Batra. With me are Brian Lilley and Lorrie Goldstein. Well, Lorrie, this land acknowledgement that the City of Toronto now has officially instituted in all capacities, it's lengthy, it's guilt-ridden, it's ridiculous. And that councillor, Shelley Carroll, who's the budget chief in the City of Toronto, has gone viral globally for just how ridiculous that land acknowledgement is.
Well, the member of Integrity TO, I mean, that was brilliant. Because the most effective thing when you deal with that is not to denounce the land acknowledgement, because then you're accused of being anti-Indigenous. He didn't do any of that. He mocked the councillors and he mocked the council. And he also pointed out, I think what everybody feels when they hear these long acknowledgements is, well, yeah, but we're the taxpayers. We pay for everything you do. And every time you virtue signal about this great thing you're doing for us, you're doing it with our money. So to me, what he did was brilliant satire. It avoided disparaging Indigenous people, and it appropriately mocked the councillors. And if you watch those councillors while he's saying it, they want to be anywhere else but there. You can see the frowns and the shuffling of the, and so that to me, it was dead on. It was dead on target. It was brilliant. It said something that needed to be said. Is listen, you people, you're responsible to us, right? In terms of respecting Indigenous people, great, no problem with that. We're spending billions and billions of dollars to try and do justice to, and most Canadians support that. Most Canadians aren't against Indigenous people. We want them to share in Canada's prosperity. I mean, who isn't saying on the oil and gas pipelines that Indigenous people have to benefit financially? But in the real world, in Toronto, and also like in Toronto, why are you always talking about issues that aren't about Toronto? Plow the snow, keep the roads decent, figure out the traffic lights and how they're supposed to work. When you're going to dig up a street, have somebody consult with everybody, like hydro, telephone, the road repair people, so you only have to blow it up once instead of 3 times. Could we get some of these road repairs done on time? And so, to me, it was I just laughed right through it, and I just thought, this guy would be great on council.
Well, it points, Brian, to the absurdity and highlighting the absurdity of the current City of Toronto land acknowledgement, and maybe it's happening in other jurisdictions too. I wouldn't be surprised if it is. But this really drove the point home. And right in the face of the very counselors who craft these sorts of things. And I mean, you were posting about it on X over the past few days, and I mean, it's a viral sensation now, pointing to the height of the ridiculous.
Toby Lucky from one of the founders of Shopify was posting about it, saying how on point it was. It's being picked up all over the place. That's great news. And by the way, Lorrie, Daniel Tate is looking at running for council in Toronto Centre, which is Chris Moyse. And Chris Moyse was one of the councillors, along with Gord Perks, looking very uncomfortable in that video. The Toronto land acknowledgement, though, it's not just that, we're acknowledging the Mississaugas of the New Credit and the Wendat people and on and on. We then go into an African ancestral acknowledgement, talking about how people were brought here against their will by the transatlantic slave trade. Ontario, I'm sorry, that's garbage. Ontario banned slavery almost immediately. And Toronto's black population arrived on jumbo jets in the 1970s and 80s, mostly coming in from the Caribbean, which, yes, was part of the transatlantic slave trade. But we were not part of that here in Ontario. By the time Toronto was any going concern, you could not bring in slaves. And then slavery was slowly eradicated here. So this is just performative. And even the land acknowledgements, talk to an awful lot of people in the First Nations communities, and their response is, well, you're going to give the land back?
Exactly.
No. Okay, so then why are you reminding me that, this used to be our land? And specific to Toronto, this land was purchased. Land was purchased in the 1700s. There have been several amendments to that purchase agreement, new money going to the First Nations community that sold the land of Toronto, an increase in terms of tens of millions of dollars for that land. So it makes it sound like we stole the land. It makes it sound like we were big slave traders. We're not. So I would like to see this done away with. But I fully support Daniel Tate showing up and making the councillors feel ridiculous with his taxpayer acknowledgement, because those two councillors, especially Perks and Moyse, they don't care about taxpayers' funds. They're the ones that decided we had to rename Sankofa Square, which was Yonge Dundas Square, which is at the corner of Yonge and Dundas. And so when people say, how do I get to Sankofa Square? You have to say, well, go to Yonge and Dundas. And we've got TMU Station, which had to be renamed because Henry Dundas was such a horrible racist that his name can't be anywhere except it's right there. TMU Station, Dundas Street, on the same sign. So it's done under false pretenses, because Henry Dundas was not the horrible racist they claim he was not in favor of slavery. So they make up reasons to do these things, waste our money doing it, and then can't even, fix the problem that they say we have to fix, because Dundas is still everywhere.
Well, the height of Toronto City Council's absurdity was met with mockery. What do you think? Let us know in the comments below. Like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and go to thetorontosun.com. You'll find commentary and coverage there you will not find anywhere else.